Antonio's days overflowed with purpose and quiet joy. Each morning, he would rise before dawn, the city still wrapped in sleep, and make his way to O Bom Pastor, the small market he had built with his own hands. The market was more than a place to buy bread and fruit. It was a gathering spot, a haven where neighbors greeted each other by name, and kindness was as common as the sunrise. Antonio believed that every loaf of bread, every piece of fruit, was a chance to share a little hope with the world.
He'd slip an extra orange to a child whose eyes lit up with surprise, or quietly tuck a few apples into the bag of a struggling mother. These small gestures, unnoticed by most, were his way of spreading grace, reminding people that someone cared, that they mattered. When he saw a tired mother, weighed down by the burdens of the day, he'd offer a gentle word or a reassuring smile. For Antonio, his business was never just about profit. It was a ministry of daily grace, a way to serve his community with compassion and dignity.
On Sundays, Antonio transformed from market vendor to humble pastor. In the modest church at the heart of the neighborhood, he shared stories of hope and forgiveness, weaving lessons from Scripture with tales from everyday life. His words made faith feel close and real, something you could hold on to in times of trouble.
Dad always said faith was the strongest roof over a home. He taught us that no matter what storms came, as long as we held on to our faith and to each other, we would never be truly lost.
At home, laughter and love filled the air. Sandra and their 2 children brought warmth and light to every corner of their small house. Evenings were spent around the kitchen table, sharing stories, dreams, and simple meals that tasted of gratitude.
My husband was our anchor, his faith steady and sure. In his presence, we felt safe, cherished, and strong, like nothing could shake the foundation of our family.
Antonio never imagined the solid ground beneath him could ever give way. To him, life was abundant, filled with meaning and connection, and he trusted that the love he gave would always return to him, as certain as the dawn. Trouble crept in quietly, almost unnoticed at first. A new supermarket opened just down the street, drawing away the loyal customers who once filled O Bom Pastor with laughter and life. Day by day, the small shop's earnings dwindled, and the once busy aisles grew silent. The cash register, which used to ring with hope, now sat empty, echoing the uncertainty that had settled over our lives. The world outside seemed to move on, but inside, everything was changing.
The stress weighed on him, and it seeped into every corner of our home. Meals became quiet, tense affairs, with each of us lost in our own worries. The warmth and laughter that once filled our evenings faded, replaced by a heavy silence. I watched as the man I loved seemed to shrink under the burden, his shoulders hunched, his eyes distant. Our home, once a place of comfort, now felt like a fragile shell, ready to crack.
Arguments replaced laughter, and the smallest things sparked tension. Antonio's faith, once unshakable, began to falter. He stood at the pulpit, trying to offer hope to others, but inside he felt like a fraud. His words empty, his spirit weary. The church, which had always been a sanctuary, now echoed with his doubts. The community sensed the change, and so did we.
He began to withdraw, missing church services and avoiding friends. Shame and doubt weighed heavily on him, making it hard for him to even look us in the eye. I saw him sitting alone, lost in thought, wrestling with questions he couldn't answer. The man who once led us in faith now seemed adrift, unsure of where to turn.
Seeking escape from the pain and confusion, he turned to alcohol. What started as a single glass to calm his nerves soon became many, each one numbing the ache but never truly healing it. The bottles multiplied, and with them, the distance between us grew. The comfort he sought was fleeting, leaving only regret in its wake.
The bottle numbed his pain, but it also deepened the distance between us. I watched him slip further away, his eyes clouded by sorrow and drink. I worried for him, for us, and for the family we were losing to this silent storm. Each night, I hoped he would find his way back, but the darkness only seemed to grow.
The storm had arrived, fierce and unrelenting, casting shadows over everything we once held dear. It felt as if we were caught in a tempest, with no safe harbor in sight. Antonio was lost at sea, tossed by waves of doubt and despair. He searched for something to hold on to, but the horizon seemed impossibly far away. He drifted further from faith, family, and himself, each day feeling more alone. The journey ahead was uncertain, but hope, though faint, had not yet disappeared. Fights escalated, no longer just about money, but about everything.
One night, broken by despair, Antonio left us behind.
He wandered through motels, then the streets, pride and hope stripped away.
The city became cold and unforgiving. He was just another face among the forgotten.
Begging replaced giving. Alcohol was his only escape. He became a ghost, haunted by memories and convinced he was beyond grace. Darkness swallowed him whole. On a bitterly cold night, with the city lights flickering and the wind biting through his thin jacket, Antonio wandered the empty streets searching for a place to rest. Hunger gnawed at him, and exhaustion weighed down his every step. As he rummaged through a trash bin, hoping for scraps, his hand brushed against something unexpected, a battered, weathered Bible, its cover torn and pages stained by rain and time. At first, Antonio almost tossed the book aside, dismissing it as just another piece of someone else's forgotten life. But something about its presence, the way it seemed to call out to him, made him pause. He hesitated, feeling the weight of the book in his hands, and decided to keep it, unsure why, but unable to let it go. Curling up in a doorway to escape the wind, Antonio opened the Bible at random. His eyes landed on a passage from Jeremiah. "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and a future." The words seemed to leap off the page, speaking directly to the ache in his heart and the emptiness in his soul. As he read, a wave of emotion crashed over him. The words pierced through his despair, reaching places inside him he thought were long dead. Tears welled up in his eyes and spilled down his cheeks. Tears not just of sadness, but of being seen, of being found in the darkness. For the first time in what felt like forever, a flicker of hope stirred within him. That night, when the familiar urge to numb his pain with drink crept in, he resisted. Instead, he clung to the words he had read, letting them echo in his mind and heart. Antonio gripped the Bible tightly, holding onto it as if it were a lifeline. He looked up at the night sky, wondering if maybe, just maybe, there was still a purpose for him. The promise of hope and a future felt fragile, but it was enough to keep him going. That night, as the city slowly woke to a new day, a tiny seed of hope was planted deep within Antonio's heart. A seed that, against all odds, might one day grow. The next morning, Antonio sought help at a shelter, swallowing his pride. He received food, a shower, and dignity. Cutting his hair and shaving, he began to recognize himself again. On Sunday, he slipped into a church's back pew, feeling peace for the first time in months. He took any job he could find, slowly rebuilding his life brick by brick.
He wrote me a letter. No excuses, just honesty and a plea for forgiveness.
He sent it, trembling, hoping for grace. It was his first step home.
The letter arrived, and as I read, my anger melted into tears.
Mom, what does it say?
I read it aloud. His words were full of sorrow and hope.
The children listened, missing their father but sensing change.
I knew what I had to do. I took the letter and gathered the children. We would find him, not with more words but with open arms.
Hope returned, fragile but real. The door to our hearts was opening again. Antonio saw Sandra and the children waiting across the street. His heart stopped. He whispered, "I'm so sorry," expecting rejection.
Daddy, we missed you.
Sandra's touch spoke forgiveness. The family embraced, beginning to heal. Antonio returned home, changed. He rebuilt his life, his market, and his faith, now helping others in need. His story became a living sermon. No one is too lost for grace, and every broken life can be restored.